And we do a lot with fundraising for charities in our community and from Rotary International as well. And we also have an interest in what happens in our community and what makes it go and what are the interesting people and the interesting organizations. And if you think downtown on Main Street, across from the giant tree that used to be next to City Hall, there's a building that says Big Frog. And Big Frog is started as t-shirt printing, but we have Paul who's going to tell us all about it and the franchise operations and everything. Come on down.
Thank you, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yep. Okay, good. You can tell I have an accent. So before we start, I hail from the once great city of Manchester in the UK. Moved over to the US in 2001, just after 9/11, which was an interesting time to move to America. Became a citizen in 2009. So I find myself in the same situation as the royal family now, even though I don't like the royal family. I have two birthdays, the day I was born and the day that I became an American citizen. So that's it. Oh, by the way, there is only one team to support in Manchester, and it is Manchester United. Just want to make sure everybody knows that. Okay. So I'm here to talk about the Big Frog Franchise Group, known as Big Frog Custom T-shirts and more. We are a franchise system, but before I talk about that, I just want to share a few interesting facts with you. There are currently over 3,000 operating franchise systems in the USA, and they represent about 850,000 locations, and they generate approximately $850 billion in revenue. So when people say America is built on small business, it absolutely is, and the franchise world supports small business. So just some interesting facts as I talk. So the Big Frog Franchise Group was founded by Lewit Bean, Tina, and Ron Defries. They were scientists. They worked for Ocean Optics in Dunedin. And so, like a lot of people in the corporate world, they decided they wanted to do something different. Being scientists, they figured they could do something unique on this using science as the background. And they created a company called Dream Niche. And what they did was they created bobblehead characters of scientific people and things like that. And they thought it was going to be a neat little sideline, and they had no idea where it was going to go. Turns out that it became very popular. And what happened was people kept asking them for other things. And shirts became one of those things that they got asked for. So this was prior to 2008. This is between 2006 and 2008. And so they would go and outsource the shirts and stuff. And what they realized was, A, it was expensive, and B, it wasn't timely. And so they eventually came to the idea that, well, why don't we print these things ourselves? And so that's what they did. There was no equipment available. So being from a science background, they cobbled equipment together and sort of basically used inkjet technology to produce a printer that would print onto shirts directly onto garments. Hence the term DTG, direct to garments. That was the sort of the technique that they envisaged. So 2008, somebody came in, said, "Hey, what do I need to do to get into one of these?" And they went, "Get into one of these? What do you mean?" "Well, I'd love to operate a store like this. You guys are great. How about me set one up somewhere else?" So that was the beginning of their thought process that led into franchise. So we are a franchise system. We have over 75 locations in approximately 38 states. We have about 8 new stores scheduled to open between now and October. Every year we grow double digits. So we're really in a strong growth mode. COVID put a little bit of a chink in that, as it did for everybody. And in fact, we suspended franchising during COVID to concentrate on looking after the existing stores that we had. So we froze a lot of all sorts of things, froze royalties, did all sorts just to support the guys that were open. And so here we are, we're franchising again, we're growing again. And it's a real neat experience for somebody like me who's got a background in mechanical engineering to be the VP of operations for a system that is selling garments that are decorated. But business disciplines are business disciplines. You can apply them in any number of ways. So 2008, they decide to franchise and they start to grow. What I will say is unique about our franchise system is they were essentially game changers. They changed the industry by doing what they did. And what I mean by that is we have these things that we call key performance indicators and unique selling propositions, all that good stuff. We do on-demand printing. We turn around in 24 hours or less if we have it in stock. We use digital imagery, so there's unlimited colors, there's unlimited gradients, there's unlimited shadow, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. So we know what we do and we do it really, really well. And so what that did was that changed the industry somewhat, because up to that point, it essentially was just screen printers. And there's nothing wrong with screen printing. We do it. But screen printers, essentially, it's 2 to 3 weeks out at least. They don't take small orders. You can't walk in and order one shirt. There's minimums. So we have no minimums. We turn stuff around same day or within 24 hours. So we essentially changed the model of what on-demand printing should look like. And there's been people come along and copy us and not been successful because they tried to take a different model and adjust it to fit our model. So what's also unique is, unlike most other franchise systems, our training program is really intense. So we provide over 200 hours of training before the store even opens. And then beyond that, there's just a number of different ways in which we support our stores. We have franchise business coaches who are designed to hold the hand of the franchisee and really guide them through their journey. And our journey essentially is profitability, because everybody wants to go into business to earn some money. And so that's what's really unique, is we have this sort of caring sort of feel to the whole business. Everything's grounded in the numbers. So we know when we look at the numbers whether something's working or something isn't working, but we have this caring sort of supporting nature in our industry. People often throw out there it's a family business and it's got a family feel. Well, we actually are a family. Everything that we do is that. So some of the things that I want you to sort of think about really is, imagine if you were starting out and you had your own business concepts. You've got to come up with something, you've got to design it. You've got to think about all the different facets. Where do I get my raw materials from? How do I manufacture my product? How do I distribute my product? How do I market my product? How do I do all of those things? And once I've done all of that and I've got employees, I'm managing those employees. I'm now the HR department. I'm now the chief engineer. I'm now the finance department. I'm carrying all of that baggage I'm carrying as a business owner. Well, what we do is we have systems in place, so it makes it easy to manage those things. We have operations manuals. We have training manuals. We have a pre-opening manual that walks that franchisee through every step of opening a franchise system. There's probably about 77 steps along the way, and we have them all charted out, and this has to be completed by this date. And if we don't do it, we don't move on to the next item. So we're really trying to get that person to be the best prepared they can be to start their business and open their business and have sales rolling right from day one. So that's unique, because there's a lot of franchise systems where you get 2 weeks training, the keys, and there you go, off to the races. And it's up to you to sink or swim. And we don't do that. So we have a number, we're now 15 years in. We have a number of franchisees who have operated for 10 years or more and then gone, you know, I'm ready to do something else. And so now we're in the cycle where we're actually selling existing franchises for in some cases, really, really good money. So if you're thinking about getting into Big Frog, and I'm not saying any of you guys should be, but for somebody that is, it's nice to know that A, you can get into it, about $200,000 worth of funds you will need to start the ball rolling. I'm going to have support. It's a turnkey operation. Got all these processes lined up for me. I've got support throughout my journey with Big Frog. And then we help you market and sell the business, so you walk away with your retirement or whatever it is you want to call it at the end of that. So if somebody's starting that journey, they can look at that whole thing and go, maybe I want to be part of that. And we're in a position now where we're turning people away, not because we don't want to grow, but we want to grow with the right people. So culture is really, really important in our franchise system. And so we turned somebody away that was a, you know, 3.5 million net worth, and they were in good shape and they had all the liquid capital that they needed, but they just didn't fit in when we do a thing called Meet the Team Day. So I take them to a center of excellence, which is one of our locations that's been approved. We spend the day with them in a real operation. We bring them back to Dunedin. We sort of wine them and dine them the night before, and then we have a whole day when we meet the team, and everybody's presenting their speciality. This person just wasn't a good fit, and this just happened recently, which is why I'm sharing it with you. So the best thing we can do for that person is say, this is not going to fly, because if we could take that money, but we're not involved in, you know, if you've got a pulse in a checkbook, you know, come on down. That's not really what we want. We want people that are going to grow with the network and enhance the network. And this person was just, let's say, a little bit off the reservation. So we knew that it wasn't going to work in any number of ways. So I share that with you just to sort of really demonstrate and back up that whole thing. We are a family, you know, and we want to introduce new members to the family that are going to be a good fit for the family. Okay. So outside of that, I'm a business coach. One of the biggest things I find, the biggest challenges in the franchise world is franchisee engagement. So franchisees come with no knowledge of our system, and we train them really, really well. And then they get to a point where they know everything. And they go, why do I need you? I know everything now. I've done the training. I'm making some money. And they disengage themselves. And then generally what we see is their sales trajectory suddenly starts to do this until it gets to a point where I call it squeaky bum time, but they're looking at the bank account, they're looking at the cash flow, and they go, I need to do something different here. And then they re-engage again, but they waste all of that time, you know, trying to reinvent the wheel. So we spend a lot of time trying to keep our franchisees engaged. Every year we have what we call Frogathon, which is our national event here in Clearwater or in St. Pete. We move it around, and every franchisee comes down. And it's not a session where we stand up and preach to them. It's a session where they can learn the best of the best of the best of the best from their peers. So we have sidebar meetings. We have all sorts of stuff going on so that when they leave and they go back home, they're really enthusiastic about, I can apply this to my business. I can add this to what I'm doing right now. So that's just a good example of, again, how we support our network. Any questions, anybody? Feel free to jump in if you've got a question or two. And if you don't, that's fine also. So what do we do? Well, I mentioned direct-to-garment printing, which is essentially a garment that gets put into a machine, and inkjet technology puts that ink into the fabric of the material. So it's very stretchy, it's very pliable. People like it. It has what we refer to in the business as a soft hand. You rub your hand over it, you can almost not feel it. Very, very smooth. The downside to it is because it's been absorbed into the material, it loses a little bit of its vigor, a bit of its color. So some people might go, well, I like the retro look. I like the fact that it's a little bit sort of dull. Great. Some people might say, well, I want something that really pops, really bright and sharp, and really sort of advertises my business or what have you. And so we have other techniques for that. We have called ultra print, which is essentially a screen print that's been put onto a transfer. And then we press that onto the shirt. Now that has the vibrancy and the brightness, but when you rub your finger over it, you can just feel there's a little bit of a different texture to it. And then of course, screen printing. And of course, the downside to screen printing is if you've got more than one color, you're building layers of color up. So now the screen print feels a bit thicker. And if you're a guy or gal that works outside in the heat, and you've got a lot of ink on that shirt, it's going to start soaking that up. So that might not be the best choice for you. But we also have a newer technology called direct-to-film. So direct-to-film is a little bit like a hybrid. It's water-based inks, just like our direct-to-garment is. It's going on a film, but it uses a formula of ink that uses about 40% less ink. So the transfer is much, much thinner. The upside to it is you get the vibrancy and the brightness and all that good stuff that people might like. The downside to it is it's not embedded into the very fabric, so it doesn't quite stretch in the same way. I guess the reason I'm sharing this, and we do screen printing, we do embroidery, is there's a little something for everybody. So if somebody wants, and typically what will happen is, and when we do, we call it the store tour. When a new customer comes into our store, we invite them to touch, feel, smell, get up close personal with all of our techniques, and they choose the one that creates the best outcome for them. And whilst I'm talking about shirts and promotional materials and anything that you can decorate, we're really a service business. Our widget just happens to be printed items, decorated items. We're really providing a service to our customers. And so what does that mean? So if you're a landscaper and in springtime, you're building your team back up for the spring, you might have new employees coming back and you might need to, get them new shirts and stuff like that for the spring. So the relationship part is what gets those landscapers to come back to us so that we can do that for them. Those very same landscapers in different parts of the country, come the fall time, they're not cutting grass anymore. They're leaf blowing and they're hanging Christmas lights and they're blowing snow and they're doing all sorts of other things in the off season. Well, those guys need different things, cold weather gear and different things. So we're a one-stop shop for most of our customers. Now you might wonder, well, where do your clients come from? Where do your customers come from? Well, they come from everywhere. But our top three revenue streams, B2C, so that's everybody in this room, a customer, B2B, of which some of those are the B2C customers that also have businesses. Schools play a huge role in our world. We do tons and tons of back to school work for schools. This last 2 months, we've been busier than a one-armed paper hanger. There's been so much going on because the schools are forming and what have you. But one other stream that we do, which I think is relevant to today's conversation, is we support fundraising in a ton of different ways. So typically what we will get is a group, an organization, a club, or somebody come to us and say, hey, we need to raise some funds. Okay, everybody does. How can we help you? Well, if you give us $10 shirts and we sell them for $15, we can make $5 on every shirt. We think that's a great way to raise money. And it might be. But what we do is we say, how much do you want to raise? Because if we know what you want to raise, we've got programs here that can help you understand what you need to do to get to your target. So for example, we've given people $10 shirts and they have sold them for $15 and they sold 20 of them. Okay, that's how much money you raised. Did that allow you to do what you wanted to do? No, it didn't. Okay, so that wasn't the ideal way to get you where you needed to do in your fundraising endeavors. So we have a number of different ways that we do it. One of the ways that we can do it is we sell at full retail price, but we give you a volume discount. So we have this scaled discount off volume. So all you have to do is just promote buying these products. The more products we sell, the volume discount kicks in. The customer pays full retail for the item. So your parents or your volunteers or whoever is going to contribute to this good cause are paying full. When we wrap up the event, we tell you what the price would have been based on that volume, and we write you a check right there and then for the difference between the two. That's one way in which we raise much more money for our good causes than any other way. Schools, for example, always want to raise money. I often think that schools are fundraisers first and educators second, but anyhow, I understand schools have a difficult job to do. But one of the things we do for those is, and I'll give you a good example just this week, we had a school last year that did an anniversary type shirt, had a saying on it, and we did the shirts for them, and it went down like hotcakes. They sold gazillions of these shirts. Great. But it was a one-off deal. We got people coming back this year going, hey, can I get reprints of those shirts from last year? And we had to say, well, it was a one-time deal for last year. We're not doing that. But what we did do is we went to the school and we said, look, we're getting so many inquiries. Maybe we do a limited time run. Now, last year we were selling these at $10 shirts, because that's what the school wanted to sell. So we went in and we said, but we do a one-time run like this, you should sell them for $20. We'll give you $10 at that $20 right off the bat. And the school went, you'll give us $10 just for saying, yeah, let's rerun this shirt. So that's what we did. So in a back to school event that was 2 hours long, we sold 400 of these shirts. And they got their $10 for every one of those shirts. So I'm using those as just examples, and there's many different ways in which we can help raise funds for good causes. I don't know where have I gone over my time? I know it's 15 minutes. I've lost track of time here.
You're doing great.
Okay.
I was going to say that I had an opportunity to use your store on St. Petersburg on 4th Avenue there.
Yep.
They did a limited run of 25 shirts. It was a very reasonable cost. The color was outstanding, and they did it in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So they were outstanding.
So did you not comment on the smell of that store? Doesn't that store smell really nice? Because when anybody that goes in that store always says, man, that store smells really nice. It's like a unique selling feature for that store, just on Central, I think it's Central Avenue. Yeah. Just across the road from Green Bench, if anybody knows where Green Bench is. Okay. And if you don't, find out where Green Bench is, because it's not a bad hangout spot. But anyhow, I digress. You had some questions?
Guys, what's the typical revenue and what's the ramp up from year 1, 2, 3?
Yeah. So the initial investment is going to vary depending on a number of things. The rent, for one, that's a variable. We just don't know. Okay, but it's going to typically be $200,000 to $280,000 in that range, of which $60,000 of that is the franchise fee that you pay, and about $40,000 of sort of liquid just for get you going as you go down the road. The ramp up speed right now, our stores are breaking even in month 3. So what does that mean, break even? Well, it's a little different for each store. If your break even is $10,000 and mine is $50,000, it's going to be a different sort of cadence, isn't it? But typically our stores are going to break even in month 3. And once they break even, they generally don't go backwards. They just keep growing at that point. Our Jacksonville store that opened 2 years ago, he broke even. So he had a call with him before he opened. I said, so let's set expectations here. What would you like your sales to look like? Well, I think month 1, I'm going to do $28,000. Why is that? Well, that's what my break even is. So I said, okay, what if I was to say to you, I don't think you're going to do $28,000 straight out the box? He goes, then I think I need to adjust my expectations. So I said, okay, this is what I think you'll do. I think you'll do 10 and then 16 and then probably 26-ish in month 3. So we'll be there or thereabouts. So he did 11 and he did 18 and he did 28 and he never looked back. He did $400,000 in his first year, which for a startup is not bad. And, in a territory where there was no other store around, and he's just continued to grow and grow and grow. Our Bradenton store example, last 2 years they've grown 50% the last 2 years. Now Bradenton's not the center of commerce. It's what I would call an ordinary place. It's got high-end places, it's got low-end places, it's got everything in between. So I think it really depends on how focused you are on marketing and driving your business. And this is our number 1 challenge. When store owners open and they make a product for a customer, they're getting immediate gratification. Nothing's nicer than seeing a customer and handing their product to them and seeing that customer go, wow, this is great. My challenge is to make them not like that too much, because we want owners to drive their business, not be working in their business. So that's our always challenge, is to keep our owners focused on doing the right things. And this is not 100% compliance. If we did 80% of the things 80% right, then everybody's going to be happy. So that's one of our big challenges here. And so their growth is really down to what they're prepared to put into it in the beginning. So we have $1 million stores, we have $1.5 million stores, and we've got everything in between. So my challenge as a VP of operations is to take that bottom third, because there's always going to be a bottom third, and make them operate at this level. Because then I know at that level, even though that the bottom third, they're still going to be happy, they're still going to be profitable, they're still going to be making money. And that's the trajectory that we're on. Any other questions? Yeah, I'm sorry. I know you put your hand up there 3 times. Sorry about that.
Is that I got all my work.
Okay.
That is such a fine line. It was a lot, but you know, this stuff was like still.
Well, the neat thing is we don't. Yeah. So the reason why I try and say to our stores, don't print on other people's stuff, is simple. You've got an emotional attachment to the thing that you bring in. And if for some reason we mess up, and we're human, we're going to mess up some point. Now we have to manage those emotions. The other thing is, I don't know what's on your shirt when you bring it in. Was it sat in a container coming from Taiwan somewhere and it's got this antifungal thing sprayed on it? And now I'm going to decorate this and I don't know what the reaction is going to be. So we do what you did, but I always temper it with, there's a little risk associated with that and managing the things when they go wrong. Now it went right for you, but if they've gone wrong, we might be having a completely different conversation right now. The other thing is we actually have the industry leading mills and distributors provide us with our products. So when the supply chain issues post-COVID kicked in, they were pivoting all over the place, and we didn't miss a beat. We got stuff when we needed it. We never ran out of anything. So that really was something that sort of, you know, made us stand out from some of the competition. B2B is our single biggest growth area right now, and that happened because of COVID. Because there was a lot of people that had relationships where that company just closed and never reopened. It certainly made them question the relationship that they had with those businesses. And, you know, in business, you tend to sort of put up with stuff for a long time before you go, I think I need to change this. But when you look back, you go, yeah, I probably should have made this decision a long time ago. So we've had a ton of referral business, and that continues to grow even to this day. The other thing we did was did a really unique shop local campaign. We did it for 18 months. And what we did was we took a franchisee, nominates a small business in their area, and we would put them online, be all recorded, and we would interview that person. So that person would get the chance to tell their story, how they started, what their challenges are, what their successes are. And so that worked really, really great. That really was a powerful thing for our franchise system, and our franchisees loved it. Any other questions? Yeah.
You know, the group that didn't qualify for the franchise?
Yeah.
Were they Newcastle soccer fans?
Might have had something to do with Newcastle. Had they been Leeds United or Liverpool, we wouldn't have spoken to them at all. So any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Paul. That was fascinating and very well done.